Hey, this is Pastor Bunjee Garrett, and I want to take this opportunity to present you with another word of encouragement. Now, if you're ready for some really good news, then you might like to know that the United States Supreme Court, they just rejected yet another move by abortion providers who are doing everything they can to overturn the Texas pro-life heartbeat law. It was actually yesterday, January the 20th, when the Supreme Court decided to allow the Texas law to stay in effect. And they did this by denying a petition by abortion providers to send their challenge back to a lower court. And while this decision by the High Court is believed to be an action which will lengthen the litigation process, those who are dedicated to this fight for the right to life, well, we can rejoice in knowing that the Texas heartbeat law, it still stands and it's still providing protection for the most innocent among us. Sadly, there are those who continue to fight for the rights of women to end the life of their unborn babies. For example, Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, she wrote a lengthy dissent, which was then joined together by Justices Stephen Breyer and Elena Kagan. And in this letter of dissent, Justice Sotomayor, she declared, and I quote, "Today, for the fourth time, this court declines to protect pregnant Texans from egregious violations of their constitutional rights." That's right. Justice Sotomayor and others like her, they are convinced that abortion is a constitutional right. And yet nowhere in our U.S. Constitution is there anything about providing women with some sort of right to rip their unborn baby out of their own wombs. With that, I want to just take a moment to consider the preamble of our United States Constitution, which was written by our founding fathers. And this begins in this way, and I quote, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity." Now, just to be clear about the word posterity, this refers to all future generations of Americans, including every unborn baby in the womb today. And so if our nation's Constitution is designed to promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, well, then it only stands to reason that there's no constitutional basis for robbing these blessings of liberty from our posterity through this process known as abortion. As a matter of fact, I would argue that it's Justice Sotomayor's job to punish every American who would try to steal the blessings of liberty from their own posterity by unjustly ending the life of their unborn baby. And yet this clear line of reasoning, it doesn't stop her from dissenting against her colleague's decision to allow the Texas heartbeat bill to stand. She even went as far as to include this statement in her letter of dissent, and I quote her, "This case is a disaster for the rule of law and a grave disservice to women in Texas who have a right to control their own bodies. I will not stand by silently as a state continues to nullify this constitutional guarantee. I dissent." Well, this is clearly another case of confusion, which is oftentimes heard in the arguments of those who insist that abortion must be a right because women should have the right to control their own bodies. For them, it's about bodily autonomy. And yet, as I've pointed out many times before, abortion is a procedure that affects at least two bodies. There's the body of the mother, and then there's the body or bodies of the unborn baby or babies who are alive within her womb. And so the pregnant woman who has an abortion is not only controlling her own body, but she's also taking control of another person's body, namely her unborn baby. With that being the case, I must ask, well, what is the rule of law then that allows a woman to take the life of her unborn baby? What is this law that gives a woman the right to end the life of another person? With this question in mind, I should take a moment to remind you about the 14th Amendment, which includes the following statement: "No state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws." Okay, so according to the 14th Amendment, it's unlawful to deprive any person of life without due process of law. Now, we know that an unborn baby hasn't yet committed any crime that's deserving of death. And what this means then is that those who insist that abortion is some sort of constitutional right, they must then also hold the opinion that the unborn baby isn't actually a person, and therefore they don't deserve equal protection under the law. Now, with that being the case, I would ask, at what point in time then does a baby achieve personhood? Is personhood achieved when the mother decides to identify their baby as a person? Or is personhood achieved at the moment of fertilization as the chromosomes of mother and father create brand new DNA of another human being? Is personhood linked to self-consciousness, or is personhood achieved at the moment of ensoulment, whenever that might be? Well, according to one scientific experiment, which was conducted back in 2011, there's good scientific evidence which leads us to believe that the human being at the single cell stage already possesses the status for personhood. This study, which was titled Reprogramming Within Hours Following Nuclear Transfer into Mouse but Not Human Zygotes, that study was published in Nature Communications 4 #2. And according to this experiment, there are features of the zygotic DNA that are unique to the development of a human organism. Being that the unique zygote genome of a human is crucial for prenatal development, well, then there's scientific reason to believe that the human being already possesses the status for personhood at the very moment of fertilization. Simply put, at the moment of conception, the human zygote has automatically achieved personhood and should therefore be protected according to the 14th Amendment. Therefore, Justice Sotomayor and others like her who insist that abortion is some sort of constitutional right, they are using an outdated, unscientific argument as a basis for distorting the original intent of those who framed our nation's Constitution. Not only that, but they're also using the same basic argument that the Democrat slave owners used when they were justifying their slavery. But don't take my word for it. Let's consider the position of Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, Alveda King, who several years ago declared this. She said, "I look forward to the day when we can celebrate a holiday commemorating the end of the most devastating and dehumanizing practice since slavery, abortion." That's right. According to Alveda King, abortion is the most devastating and dehumanizing practice that we've seen here in America since the days of slavery. One reason why this is true is because those who engage in the barbaric practice of aborting unborn babies, they typically begin with the argument that a fetus isn't really a person. Well, that's the same thing that slave owners were saying about their slaves. That they can own these individuals because they're not really persons. They're not really humans. Listen, just like Alveda King, I also look forward to this day when we can finally celebrate a holiday commemorating the end of the most devastating and dehumanizing practice since slavery, which is the abortion of unborn babies. And I pray that the Texas Heartbeat Bill will continue to stand so that unborn babies here in Texas might be protected from the bloodthirsty abortionists who have no problem shedding the blood of innocent unborn babies. I would also remind you of the encouragement that Moses presented in Deuteronomy chapter 30. It's there where he declares, "I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore choose life, that you and your offspring may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying his voice, and holding fast to him, for he is your life and length of days." Christian, listen, when it comes to the choice of life or death, Moses encouraged us to choose life so that we and our offspring can live. And if you'll allow me the liberty of applying this to the topic of abortion, listen, those who love the Lord and want to experience the life provided by him, we should choose to embrace the pro-life position so that we can protect the lives of our posterity. With this as the goal, let's take a stand for the lives of every unborn baby, not only here in Texas, but throughout all of America. And let's help those who are considering abortion. Let's help them by leading them to the love of the Lord Jesus Christ. Because listen, it's the love of the Lord that will lead every expecting mother to begin to protect her own unborn baby from the unloving lies of abortionists. As we continue to take this stand against those who want to shed the blood of the most innocent among us, let's ask the Lord to give us the courage and the strength that we need so that we can continue to fight the good fight of faith, and all for the glory of God.